This is Darth Matthew, host of the Star Wars Generations and Superhero Ethics podcast, and I find your lack of membership disturbing. You can free yourself from the ads of those rebel scum by going to theethicalpanda.com and clicking join for $5 a month, $55 a year. No more ads, only the episodes, just as the Emperor intended.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Star Wars Generations podcast. As you probably noticed, we're going on an every other week schedule. We have three very busy people. It's been a little hard to find time, and we're probably going to do that for a little while longer as we're going through some of the older material. But once we have new material as well, we will definitely go back to a week or even more often format. But today we are continuing our journey through the Clone Wars animated show. We're talking about Season 2, and we're talking about my favorite episodes. And instead of doing an arc, we're going to do three distinct episodes, although two of them are pretty close together. Episodes 4, episodes 10, and episodes 15. And we're going to start with episode 10, The Deserter, because the last two are kind of all about Padme. And we have a lot to say about her, but we have a lot to say about Rex and his friend Dufresne and their kids and all the things regarding that. I am, as always, joined by my co-hosts, Erin and Alex. Say hello.
Hey.
Hi.
No, I said say hello.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Padawan training is getting really hard these days. Anyway, glad to have us all together. We've had some trouble doing it. Glad to have us all together. Let's just dive right into these episodes.
Let's get into it.
And I will say, actually, well, having just said that, I'm going to take a larger step back. These episodes I really love, and don't worry, if you don't remember what episodes we're talking about, we'll remind you. But I do think these episodes are where we really start to get reminded that we are not getting a chronological history of the Clone Wars, right? Because we are bouncing all over the timeline with these three.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it gets chronological until season 4, maybe 5.
Right.
They were kind of just having fun with it.
Yeah, it really bounces around a lot, which is like, fair enough.
When they thought of a new plot, they were like, here.
Yeah. Well, and so let's start with episode 10. Episode 10 is called The Deserter. And it's interesting because there are some episodes of the Clone Wars where I feel like every moment is really important. Mm-hmm. And there are some where it feels like there's a lot of filler in order to get to one very important character beat. And I will say, or dynamic. And I'll say for me, this episode definitely felt like that later one. And we can talk about all the episode, but I want to focus on what is important to me. It's what is the title of the episode. Because there are shenanigans. Rex winds up getting hurt and separated from his group of other clones. And he is found by a Twi'lek woman who brings him home to their house where they have children who look like kind of half human, half Twi'lek. And one of whom says to Rex, while he's sort of laid out and healing, "You look just like my father." Because, as it turns out, their father is a clone. And he's a guy named, who goes now by the name Dufresne. And then he is married. Say again?
Lawquane.
Lawquane.
It's Lawquane? Oh, okay.
Lawquane. Cut Lawquane. I watch with subtitles, guys.
So do I. I thought I heard the refrain. But anyway, doesn't matter. Lawquane probably makes a lot more sense. And as you can imagine, Rex has some real questions for this guy and is at first very kind of confrontational with him, saying, look, you're a deserter, you're a coward, you are a clone, you're supposed to be fighting in the war. And Lawquane has a lot of good responses to him about, wait a minute, you're fighting for freedom. What freedom did we have? You're saying you choose to go fight in this war, but did you ever have any other choices? Is it, coincidental that every single clone chooses this? Because maybe this is the choice we're all supposed to make. And they have some really good conversations during the course of the episode. And then by the end of the episode, Lawquane has made clear that he will not go back to being a clone soldier, but also that he will fight to the death to protect his family. And Rex kind of recognizes that, and he closes by saying, I still think you're a deserter, but I know that you're not a coward, which is what he called him before. And when the Twi'lek woman he's in love with, the mother of the children, says, are you going to turn him in? Rex says, well, I'm supposed to turn you in, but wouldn't you know it, I am having, bad memories, and because I got a bonk to my head, I don't think I'll even remember this when I get back to base. This, to me, is such a fascinating episode, and it really speaks so much about, the whole base of the show is that, these clone soldiers were leading them off to fight. And here's a whole episode about maybe they're kind of slave soldiers. And this is season 2?
This is season 2, guys.
What is going on here, guys?
I love this episode. This is one of my all-time favorites. Has been a favorite for a long time. Rewatched it a lot when it first came out for many, many, many reasons. But yeah, the topic you kind of started on, it's interesting because that's when I was young, it's not what caught my eye, but I know that I understood and heard the message.
Yeah.
But I was focused on the rest of the episode. I was focused on the scary commando droids. Like, I had nightmares about those bitches. They were scary.
That's fair.
They were scary. And like breaking down the house. I still have like home invasion nightmares. So maybe that's a me thing. But yeah. So I was like caught on to all these other aspects, like some of the clone humor at the start, some of the like big time daddy action that goes down in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, like the reconciliation, one might say.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a beautiful episode.
Well, let's start with some of the more delicate questions here, because people have had a lot of questions about the clones and their ability to reproduce for quite some time, and I don't think this episode gives us any definitive answers.
No.
Do you believe that the children are Lawquane's biological children? Or did he fall in love with a woman who'd already had children from some other non-Twi'lek humanoid person?
Alex, do you want to go first?
I'd never even consider they could be anyone but his own children, just because, like, I don't know, they were designed to look like half human, half Twi'lek, and I don't know. I don't know. For me, I don't know why they would introduce that additional concept of like adopted children and never like address it in any way. There's not even like a side comment. To me, it was I was interpreted always as just it's his kids biologically with the Twi'lek.
For me, the only reason I question it is because of the math. Because the ward is only 3 years old, and those kids are a lot older than like 2.5. But go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, well, the math. That's one thing. Here's what I'll say, Alex. Like, when I first watched this, like, I definitely was like, oh, those are his kids. But then once I, like, started learning more about Star Wars and understanding the actual span of the war and how short it was, because when I'm a kid, there's 6 seasons. I'm like, oh, my God, this is, like, a decade. Like, I don't know how time passes.
Yeah.
So, of course, I thought that they were biological then. I have looked it up. They're not his kids because the math doesn't math.
Huh?
The math doesn't math. So Sue fell in love with another human.
Where did you look this up? I want information. That just seems so silly to me.
Because okay, so then here's the thing: we could argue the other side. Clones can reproduce. His kids grow really fucking fast.
Well, my question is like, I mean, Star Wars. You have to suspend some level of disbelief, but like, who's to say when clones reproduce that like they can't pass on the whatever gene that has been implanted in them to like double their growth span, so that like these kids are only 3 years old, but then they appear to be 6 years old because they just have that whatever the clones can pass on that ability to grow double the time frame.
Well, to me, there's two things. One is that if I remember correctly, and granted, and we can go back in the annals, and maybe some reader has, that the enhanced growth is not a genetic thing. It's something about the way that like the clones are grown, that they're kind of like pod people,
sure.
in terms of what the Kaminoans are doing. And so that's part of why they grow at such a rapid rate. Aaron's making a face, so I could well be wrong on that. But the second thing, and I think this is the stronger argument, this is maybe kind of what you're saying, is I believe that in other Star Wars media since then, and maybe this is a retcon that they did originally intend it to be his kids and they just didn't think about the details of it much. But the retcon is I believe in other media they've established that the clones are sterile, which does make sense in a lot of ways for like a lot of like genetically produced life forms are often have trouble reproducing themselves.
Where was that? Just out of curiosity, where was that established? I must have missed that.
I have no memory whatsoever of where I got it. So it could well be that it's a theory that I got somewhere.
I'm just on Wikipedia because I want answers. But y'all keep going.
I think either way, can we establish that it is not established one way or the other in the episode, and it raises like I think there is good reason to think they are his kids, because Alex, you're right. I think it would be weird for them not to be, but also the math doesn't math, and so you have to kind of headcanon it one way or the other. And I think that's kind of my only point is it's not clear from this episode.
I agree. It's definitely not clear or spoken on in the episode at all. You're just kind of, and I think part of that is like you can think of it. Maybe they are adopted, and that's beautiful that they just like call him dad and daddy, and like they don't care, and that just is their dad, and those are his kids, and that's like a beautiful story, and that makes sense as far as normal time growth.
Yeah.
However, if clones can reproduce, which there's a lot of written media that they can, I don't know at all about official, not pre-Disney stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But assuming they could reproduce, they could pass on the gene so that they grow faster. Because here's the thing, the clones, if it was like a pod thing, like the way that they were grown is how they grew up fast, then they would live a normal span, but they still get old fast and die young.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, so
they still age fast through their entire life.
Right.
So he would be giving his children an early death.
Right.
According to Wikipedia, citing the original StarWars.com site that no longer exists, so I guess old canon states that Jack was 4 years old during the events of a deserter.
So that's the little one.
The little one.
Right.
So if we're talking normal people math, could not be Cut's kids.
Clone math it could. But yeah, I mean, it says.
Have you proven clone math?
No, we have no proof either way.
Because when I've looked it up, it says no, those are not his kids.
I mean, I see that on here, but what it's citing is just this old episode, this old website that just says like he was 4. It doesn't say who his father was.
Right. And again, I don't want us to get too deep in the weeds here. I to repeat my point, I think it's interesting to me that it doesn't really say one way or the other, and maybe that is intentional because they wanted
I'm sorry.
to leave it open.
This episode came out in 2010, so in the 15 years it's existed, I've never once for a second considered there were anyone but his kids.
Oh, interesting.
So this is just very a very wild moment for me.
I was just gonna say, I think it was ambiguous so that people like us talk about it 15 years later.
Yeah.
Or George Lucas and all of them were just kind of like, why not? We'll just throw it together. We're not really thinking about it.
Well, also I think they can leave open because they might want to later establish that they are sterile or later establish that they're not.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think the most important point, Aaron, is the one you made, which is that whether or not he is genetically related to them, they 100% are his kids. And I think that's kind of, you were saying, Alex, you never questioned it. I think that's right, because we're not supposed to question it, because in the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Rex is loyal to his family, his brother clones, and he has chosen to be loyal to his family, which is no longer the clones, but is now these people.
Yeah.
And so what do you all think of like that discussion? For me, I think as someone who watched all of this as an adult, I always thought the clones were kind of slave soldiers, and I loved that they brought this up, and I was always kind of on his side. I'm curious for you guys, did you kind of watch this going, yeah, he's a deserter, like there's something wrong here, or kind of troubled by the questions raised, or did you always think like, of course he should be able to go do this? What was kind of your take on this?
I never was like, oh my God, he's a deserter. Like, he sucks. Like, no, he was one of my favorite characters. Like, one of my favorite clones still. Like, he's a really cool dude. But shit, what was I going to say? What did you ask?
Oh, just kind of how you thought of like the whole discussion about like deserting and like, does he have the right to do that?
Right. No, I always thought as like the debate that he and Rex have about like duty versus and like honor versus cowardice versus survival and like self-worth or like recognition, maybe self-reflection. And I always felt like those were important lessons and like important topics. And I liked that they came out on different sides and they agreed to like go their separate ways. Like I was very happy when Rex was like, "Oh no, I'm not going to turn you in." Like when he brought it up at the end of the episode, I remember, and Rex was like, "Well, it's my duty." I was like, "This fucker," except I was 6, so I was like, "Oh no." But yeah, so I remember just being like really happy that they worked it out, and like really happy that Cut gets to have a family and gets to like be away from this. It never, though, when I was young, occurred to me like, oh wait, the clones are slaves. It was like, oh well, the normal army, if you leave, you're a deserter, so that's a thing, I guess. Right. Without like the full understanding of conscription without choice.
Yeah. Alex, what about you?
Sorry, I've been like deep in the weeds of Wikipedia when you asked this question. I want to answer your question, Matthew, but real quick, the final word I want to say on our previous thing here is that Pablo Hidalgo, who used to be the keeper of canon for a long time in Star Wars, said that when the characters were written, the girl was intended to have had a human father, although not being Cut not being her direct father. And then the son was meant to be more ambiguous because he was of the age where it might make sense, but she was not. But they never directly said who the father was. Again, apparently on purpose. So I don't know why they did that. But okay, I'm satisfied now. What was your question?
Alex.
Oh my god!
I was deep in the Wikipedia. I'm sorry, the ADHD went crazy. I had to know.
They were just asking, what did you think about like the idea of a deserter when you watched this episode? Were you like, oh my god, like Cut's a deserter?
Well, when I was a kid, I don't know. I've always been really interested in history and war history in general, especially when I was younger. And so like the initial like implication of a deserter is like you're kind of taught when you're younger, like deserters are bad. You don't abandon your team or your brothers in anything, whether it's sports or war or whatever. But I think that even when I was young, I kind of realized pretty quick that like Cut was making the right decision for him, and that like it's about being an individual and choosing your own peace over anything else. And I also don't think I like fully grasped that the clones were slaves until like much later in the Clone Wars, until I got older as well.
Yeah.
But like once you like come to that conclusion, I think this episode takes on a whole new meaning of the like, you know, this is someone who chose to like break away from that slavery, choose his own life. And there's absolutely nothing remotely wrong with that. I don't think. I think that.
Right.
I also think it's like valid. Like I think both Rex and Cut, and they kind of came to this agreement of like, you know, for Rex, and obviously we see so much content over the years between Clone Wars and Rebels that beyond that, the Rex wrestles with a lot of like, you know, what am I fighting for? Is this for me? But in that moment, he wanted to keep fighting. He believed in the cause, and so that's valid for him. Yeah. But it's also valid for Cut to be like, this is a pointless war, and you know, I'm not going to continue to just be a part of it. Like, I have an opportunity to have a peaceful life here. I'm going to take that. That's beyond valid. I'm sure that's happened in the real world so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's worth mentioning the historical context of it. At one point, he says, I was just another expendable clone waiting for my time to be slaughtered in a war that made no sense to me. And I think it's really important to know this is an episode that comes out in the late 2000s when we are coming to the end of the first real stages, let me say that again, where, you know, the bloom is off the rose about U.S. involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're starting to really kind of wind those things down. But we had a real sort of sea change moment of the country going from mostly being in favor of those things to being pretty against them and against our involvement there. And that there was a lot of discussions about that a lot of the people who were signing up for the military were people who either because of economic circumstances and access to education, or just because of like family pressure and what they were taught, like felt like the military was their only choice. And I do think that that's kind of the background against which this is set. And yeah, I think it is both why I love this episode, and I'm also so frustrated that it comes in season 2. Because to me, this is a sea change moment. This is a moment when you're pulling back, both for Rex, the character, and for us, the audience, of, hey, maybe we shouldn't be cheering these soldiers on. Maybe we should let it, like, these are men who are created for no purpose other than to go and die in war. And that's horrible. And the Jedi being their generals is horrible. And, like, it's why I said it kind of bothers me that this is all told. I have to remind myself every time after this that when I watch Rex lead clones into battle and into death, that this hasn't happened yet. because to me, in some ways, this should fundamentally change Rex's character and his relationship to his other clones, and his relationship to the Jedi, and his relationship to the whole idea. But of course, that doesn't happen because this is all being told out of order.
Yeah. And I mean, like, to an extent, there's the idea of like when you're so deep in it, your first sight or your first glimpse of change or difference, you're not going to be like, oh shit, yeah. It's like, I feel like Rex is he takes the idea of being like loyal and honorable so seriously.
Right.
Like, that I think he just wouldn't even consider it, and probably just like boxed it up because, gosh dang it, Grievous got away. We got to go get him.
Yeah.
Like, there was other stuff happening in that episode.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly, him just like letting Cut go and not following protocol to like turn him in is a sign of like, you know, him being a little more understanding than maybe other clones might be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we see so many events throughout the Clone Wars between, you know, this. We'll talk about, you know, the incident on Umbra with Pong Krell. But like lots of moments where like we see Rex wrestle with like the way the military is structured and like following orders and then fighting back against them, which I think ultimately culminates in, you know, Ahsoka, you know, being able to like take the ship out and him like, you know, fighting with her during Order 66 and all that. But I think that this is one of those first moments, like Aaron said, that like he even considers like, oh wait, there's another life out, there's another possibility than what I'm being ordered to do, and it plants the seed and then goes from there.
Oh, and to be clear, it's not that I wish he becomes a big old peacenik and starts waving a peace flag. I think it's the beginning, but like, it's why I wish I knew which episodes come after this and which don't. Because to me, the comparison is Agent Kallus having that moment with Zeb, where Zeb lets him go. And, you know, he doesn't like join the Alliance the next day. He goes back to the Empire. He stays with the Empire for a while. But I think it is incredibly clear that you're seeing, you know, Kallus before that incident and Kallus after that incident in Rebels. And to me, the fact that we don't get that with Rex is to me one of the failings of we don't get a more linear storyline. And there's some good reasons why we don't. And I'm not saying it's against, but I'm just saying I wish we'd had more of that, because this seems like such a pivotal moment for Rex.
I would somewhat argue. Oh, your hand was up first, actually. Go ahead.
I was like, is Aaron going to call on me or what's going on here?
I
was going to say is that there is on StarWars.com a guide to chronological order. So we can like peek in and see like what comes after what comes.
That's when you're watching the show, you don't
No,
get
I
that.
agree. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying like I can peek in here and be like, I don't, off of just the top of like, scrolling through this, see like an episode where like it wouldn't make sense in that like what comes after. But I agree with you, Matthew. I mean, I always have wished the Clone Wars would just be like reordered, basically.
Right.
But like then the animation wouldn't match up, I guess, because it got better and stuff like that. But I think in the chronological order, like this definitely is a turning point for Rex based on the episodes that came before and after.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I just wish Disney Plus let me just hit play and play them in chronological order, you know?
Oh, I agree. And it is season 4 that they firmly are then in chronological order moving. Actually, season 3. Nope, season 4.
Okay. Well, let's just kind of pay attention. It'd be interesting to see, like, without looking it up, if you guys ever sort of see an episode and you're like, oh, I think this is after this moment because of Rex's behavior, and then look it up and we'll see kind of how they match up.
So I had actual thoughts to say.
Damn.
Which is that I would argue, when is the next time that we really see Rex in a vulnerable and emotional state? Like, we don't have a ton of like super close like Rex episodes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he's there on the sidelines. Like, he's in a lot of episodes, and there are episodes that focus more on the clones, but they're also mission oriented.
Right.
And I feel like this was a rare instance of like, he's injured. Like, he has to actually like sit and listen and talk.
Right.
And sit with his feelings for just a fucking second.
What a concept.
And then I wonder if he just hasn't had that since.
But
we get a little later in the series.
Well, but my memory is that, because I think you're right, it's not that I expect to see it from him, it's that I think there are episodes, though, where other clones are questioning their work, their orders, you know, and their just role as soldiers to him. So, yeah, let's just see how it plays out, because I want to see, To me, this should be
hear you.
a Callus on the, lost on the planet with Zeb kind of a moment. So, anything else from this episode that we want to talk about before we get into
So much.
Okay, go ahead.
We have some of two of my
Damn.
favorite clone quotes are from this episode.
Which are?
My boys. Okay. So, shortly after Rex gets injured, right? He gets shot damn near through the heart.
Mhm.
And he's unconscious. They pull his helmet off. They're like,
Oh,
oh my God.
I know what you were going to say.
Yes, you do. And they look up and like Jesse's in charge, when Rex goes down. And so he's like looking around and he's like, sees this farm animal and he's like, this animal is domesticated. And where there's a farm, there's usually a farmer.
Yeah, some next level big brain shit right
Fortune
there,
cookie
Jesse.
wisdom of the very top level.
Groundbreaking information from a fucking 11-year-old. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I love them. Okay, and then my second one, which is honestly like, it's a pretty cunty line if you ask me. But like, they have Rex, he's like at Sue Lawquane's house in the barn, like laid down. He kind of wakes up. He's got the patch. Kix is like, dude, you could have died. And then Rex is like, okay, well, we got to get moving. And Kix is like, no. And he's like, yes. And Kix goes, sir, as the team medic, when it comes to the health of the men, including you, I outrank everyone.
Yeah.
So I respectfully order you to rest. That is so cunty. Like,
Well,
he ate him up.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I'd forgotten that actually that happens to Rex twice. Because also then, and we were referring to him as Lawquane and Cut. Alex referred to him, that Cut, I think, was his kind of clone name. And now it goes
that's
by
his
Lawquane.
like clone and first name. He introduced himself by that kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then because there's also a moment where they're getting ready to defend their home and Rex is going back into, well, I'm the commander, you're a clone, I'm going to order you what to do. And Cut is like, sir, with all due respect, this is my home, I give the orders. Mm-hmm. And so it's a second time where Rex has to be like, all right, someone else is in charge. I'm just, I'm not head chef. I'm just a sous chef today. And yeah, so I didn't even thought of that, but I'm so glad you brought up that other line because that's a connection.
Yeah. Some of my favorite lines. It's when I feel like these are the early days of seeing the character and the energy of the 501st. And just like how endearing and loved these characters will become over time.
Right.
To me, at least, unless you're a heartless bitch, you don't pay attention to the clones.
Pon Crow ass, looking ass.
Jeez.
That's what I'm saying. People who don't pay attention to the clones are Pon Crow.
Okay.
Oh my God, it was a joke.
That just felt like a jump. That just felt like I said a little thing, you said a big thing.
I wasn't jumping you. I'm saying
Let's move on to the next episode.
Speaking of cunty, I love it. Okay, go on.
What are we doing next?
Okay, so next would be well, are we doing it chronologically?
Oh, so I was gonna. Well, okay. So let me back up. So I love those things you brought up, Aaron. Alex, was there anything about this episode you wanted to go into?
All I say is that when Cut and Rex have to work together to fight off the commando droids, that was pretty fun to watch. That's all I'm going to say. It was cool to see them fighting in the dark in a little farmhouse. That was a really cool action sequence at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that back up, actually, because I have something else to say.
Go for it.
And it's not very PG.
Yeah, let's hear about the daddy vibes. We're
fucking
into
fantasies from this episode, dude. Oh, like the mood lighting and like the sneaking. And they're so hot and like fighting and shit. And then fucking at the end, and the commando gets Rex by the neck. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. I can't with that. I'm like, it really gets me. It got me as a kid. I thought about that episode a lot. And I rewatched that episode a lot. And I was super Christian. So I didn't really know why I liked it so much. But
I did do some digging about this episode, and the phrase "clones can be dilfs" did come up a bunch of times in this episode. So yeah, no, I'm hearing what you're saying.
hot. Yeah. Okay, now we can move on.
Well, so now I was going to say this has been a great discussion. We've already almost a half an hour, and I have a child that is expressing its needs and a wife who needs a break. So I'm actually going to say, let's call it now. Let's save those last 2 episodes for a whole other episode, because I think there's so much we're going to talk about with Padme. So thank you both. We're going to cut this short. Oh no, are you definitely like, we need to have this conversation
No, I
now?
just have a really funny name today that coordinates with the episodes, but it's okay. I'll do the same name next week.
Okay, that's
I'll
okay.
live.
Alex, any other last things you want to say about this episode before we quick wrap, and we'll go right into it next week?
We're doing next week's episode next?
No, Matthew has to go because they have a baby.
Oh, I missed that
So
part.
we're cutting it short.
Dang. I was
You
also had my name teed up.
listen.
I always had my name teed up. I was a flawed man.
I'm naming you officially Cunty McCunterson and the ADHD boy.
I mean, honestly, like ADHD's been going berserko lately.
That's okay. I was just on a podcast earlier today talking about ADHD, so we got a lot to hear about.
So we're gonna
All
do
right,
the next 2 episodes next week. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do the next 2 episodes next week. So thank you all so much, listeners. Thank you. We will be back soon. Live long and prosper.
Stay classy, Salukamai.
Where there's a farm, there's
a
usually a
farmer.
farmer.
I wrote down that line and I was like, oh my God, yes, we need to talk about this line.
Did you also go with
I love Jesse.
Oh, are you soon to be resurrected Anaconda?
That's Anaconda Far.